Hey everybody, Sheri Keffer here, and welcome to tv.newlife.com. I have another guest today. Well, actually the same guest we've had on some shows, Clay Cranford, who wrote the book, Parenting in a Digital World. We're going to be looking at today how this culture is changing, how pornography is beginning to speak into how relationships on a more global level are evolving. It's molding our kids into different types of people and different types of relationships that are creating complexities in how we relate to each other. And so we wanted to just talk about a few things that we thought you might want to know, questions that we know you ask us on our Ask Me Anythings, and kind of to dovetail this information for you guys. So, looking for love in all the wrong places. Mm-hmm. You're talking about that before we started the show. It's what kids are doing today.
Yeah, as a school resource officer and talking to hundreds of students, I think of one in particular. Her mom and dad were not around. She's being raised by her grandmother, and she's looking for someone to love her. And all kids are looking for love and acceptance. And the current media and the internet drove her to looking at pornography and trying to find meaning and love there. And what that entailed was also her meeting strange men online. And even
so it's like a daddy wound. Like,
yes,
I don't have somebody here to meet this need, so I'm going to find my daddy out there. I'm going to find a man that's going to tell me some nice things about me and make me feel loved.
And she was sending nude images of herself, fully nude, to strange men. She's only 13.
Wow.
And they weren't even asking for it. I mean, that was the opener,
Yeah.
right? Because she just wants someone to care about her. And and she thinks the way she's going to do that is by giving her body, and that's the world that we're living in. Is that this kind of pro porn, pro rape culture that a female's worth is really wrapped up in her ability to, gratify men sexually.
Yeah. So painful to hear you say that, Clay. It is changing our culture. We think about, and you all hear so much on the channel tv.newlife TV and also the radio we talk so much about intimacy and connection, right? And how this idea of objectifying women and men through sex really is it's a fake or fraud. It's a distractor from actually helping young people even learn how to be intimate, how to have conversations, how to not sexualize each other, how to get to connect and just be a friend first. It's as if courtship, which is getting to know somebody, seeing somebody across a room, smiling, right? And then having conversations, and then getting to spend some time as a friend, maybe, hanging out with them a bit. And then as courtship continues, you might at some point, hold their hand, or, it is taking courtship and it is condensing it into milliseconds,
Right.
of sexual pictures being sent. The idea of courtship is being lost.
Right.
In our day and age. And that does impact our understanding of how I can be intimate with somebody else. It's the fast track to nowhere, really.
It is, and children, especially boys as young as 10, start having questions about this, start seeking it out, and we have an internet that is all porn. So, hundreds of millions of people go to pornography sites. More people visit pornography sites than Twitter, Hulu, and Netflix combined. It's selling them this idea that they can have a healthy relationship with somebody, given the kind of examples that they have. But most of the sites that kids are going to, or that anybody can go to, are these aggregate sites where it's not just one type of pornography, but it's you have maybe 20 or 30 categories to choose from, and some of these are very dark places that a child can get exposed to, and a lot of it is very damaging, kind of psychologically, but also it's depicting violent acts against mostly women in these situations. And unfortunately, as an investigator, I've had to look into some of these things in my investigations, and as an adult, like some of that stuff's horrifying.
Yeah.
And the idea that an 8 or 9-year-old can be exposed to that is even doubly horrifying.
Here God made sexuality, and there is healthy sexuality. Healthy sexuality is safe. It's safe. Healthy sexuality doesn't have secrets, right? Mm-hmm. Healthy sexuality is about bonding. It's about respect. It is about all the things that porn is not for, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Porn is degrading. It's about a one up, one down. It's about objectifying people. It doesn't matter what you want. I have the right to do this to you. There's just so many messages that are sent, and again, it is changing our culture, and it's critical as parents, families, that we begin to take a look at what we can do to change this norm. I think a lot of times I'll hear from families, and they'll actually say, "I just feel like I just can give up. There's nothing I can do mm-hmm. to make a change in this tsunami." Mm-hmm. What do you say to that as you're out talking to families all across the nation?
Well, we need to make it an issue. We have people marching in the streets for various issues, and sometimes there's these issues that are affecting us every day. Maybe because it's wrapped up in sex, I think is difficult for people to want to address it, because I think maybe just in our own culture there's a certain squeamishness when it comes to talking about sex, and the idea that these are things that happen behind closed doors, and that might even be happening with consensually in like relationships or something. But the bottom line is that if as long as there's porn out there, there are people who are being hurt, because many of the porn actresses and actors are trafficked. They're not choosing to be in these porn movies that they're actually forced to because they're in the sex industry. Mm-hmm. But then we also have the issue of how this is affecting our teens. One of the largest aggregate porn sites every year puts out data on what's being searched for and what's being looked at on their website, and it's very telling, because in 2015 the #1 porn search term then got knocked down to #2 in 2014 was teen.
Wow.
So hundreds of millions of people are searching porn sites and watching videos about adults having sex with teens, which by definition is human trafficking, but they are
illegal.
Yeah,
illegal in many states.
But even if it's an adult that they're trying to make look younger, the whole idea is that there's somebody having a fantasy about an adult having a fantasy about having sex with a teen, which I don't. I have teens. I don't want people fantasizing about having sex with my children. So it's the first step towards victimization, and we know that when we look at child sex predators, it's the child pornography that gets them over that hump of shame, guilt, and fear that usually keeps them maybe from acting out and actually contacting a child and physically contacting a child. But it's the child pornography that breaks down that barrier of shame and guilt. And pornography works the exact same way with regards to fantasizing on sex with teens, or having fantasizing about having sex with somebody who's not your husband or wife. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of that brain virus that gets in there, and then before you know it, you're thinking about that person at work, and now you're flirting with them, and now something else happens.
It's interesting. We had a couple call in to the show. Bob and Lynn, those were the names they gave us, I believe, and she had gone to the Women in the Battle conference, and he had yet to go to EMB, but they were using porn. They'd been married, 25 years, something like that, and she was beginning to find her dignity. And she said, even though they'd used it all these years, she said, "I feel unloved. I don't feel, I feel dirty. I feel shameful about this." And she was asking him to change. And it created a dilemma in their relationship. And in their courtship, they had watched pornography together, right? And it had been a part of their relationship. But I was thinking about it, and I said this to them on the show. I said, you've always had other women in your marriage bed. You've always had other people in your life sexually. It's never been eye to eye, person to person. You matter, and I'm not looking at anybody else. You pleasure me. I want to have healthy sexuality with you. I don't need anything else, any other people, right? Through porn in order to do that. Now, what's done with a couple one-on-one? If they want to have things in their marriage relationship and the sanctity of their marriage, they want to spice things up with some things, okay, we actually encourage that at the Marriage Intimacy Weekend. But when it comes to including others through pornography, there is violence that's on the other side. And I think that's where this woman, I think I told you about, who is a feminist actually, and she's trying to make a splash out there in the world right now. And I love what you said is we need to join forces. We need to make a splash out there. We can't just sit back and let it happen. In our own way, we can begin to speak out and say this isn't okay. It is a form of sexual violence. People are being objectified and hurt, and it is hurting our families. And so actually just talking about it that way and being brave to do that is a part of how you make the change in your corner of the world, right?
Yeah, and there's a way out of it. I mean, and that's the beauty. I love Every Man's Battle and these resources that are out there for people.
Yeah.
Because there is an opportunity to repair those relationships, to have a healthy relationship with your significant other, and I mean, and we see that in some really horrible situations. So there's hope out there.
There's so much hope. Hey, if you've liked what you've heard today in this time with Clay and I, take a look. We did 3 other shows together, so make sure to go through all of them. Each one is really different and unique. There are very helpful resources, and check them out on your website. Your website is
cybersafetycop.com.
cybersafetycop.com. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on shows in the future.